Okay, we are going to jump in here to Chapter 7, and this is Career Development Interventions. Now, some of this is pretty dry stuff. It's not going to seem like new or shocking, so I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. Learning Outcome 1, define and describe the ways in which computer-assisted systems assist students and clients with career exploration. All right, and describe the characteristics of 21st century career planning systems. Describe different modes of career guidance help via technology, and describe the state of the art of ICT now and for a potential future. More outcomes. Define the responsibilities, skills, and ethics of counselors using ICT. And then list and define criteria for career planning websites and integrated systems. And then know and be aware of ethical concerns. All right. So information and communication technologies, ICTs, and current trends. Well, almost all systems and applications are web-based now. So this is not just a current trend, it's a permanent trend. And of course, we're expanding the use of that. Using sites like in school counseling, things like Nearpod, and using things like UScience and Naviance and all different types of programs. So a lot of this is really streamlined programming. Some of it is piecemeal together, but we'll talk about that. Multiple linkages to websites, use of e-portfolios. This is something we've talked about doing in the counseling program. Instead of having a large exit exam, could we use an e-portfolio that pulls together all the elements of your career development while you're in the program, and we just score that? It's a possibility. Increased capability to store documents such as certificates, resumes, cover letters. And this allows people to go back and look at those documents over time and to be able to tweak those. Differentiated information. So looking at students 5th through 6th grade, 7th through 8th grade, high school, even small children, they would be getting very differentiated instruction, which you will know after the next time we meet how important that is. No fee websites funded by departments of education, labor, economic development, and or commerce at the state, national, and international level. All right, and then increased global communication. And what I really like about this is that, you know, there's a chance that people can't get access to a career counselor, just like with telehealth. And so this gives them an opportunity to find someone close by who can work with them. And of course, using social media to network and job search and provision of career planning tools via tablets and smartphones. The advantage is that you have a system that's available 24/7. Potential to serve a much larger audience. Databases can be updated more frequently. And of course, this can go throughout your lifespan. So once you learn it, you continue to have access and improve, you know, your tools and your skills. So career counselors can seamlessly integrate these internet resources and email communications to their clients. I'm a little bit nervous about telling people they could email communications. But, you know, certainly that is a wave of the future, just making sure you're on an encrypted and safe website. Web-based services via computers, tablets, and smartphone are common practice worldwide. They are, but when it comes to people's personal lives, we have to be much more ethical and careful. Types of career services, standalone websites. We'll look at those in class. Integrated career planning systems like the Cooter system, Naviance, UScience. I already mentioned those. They are expensive though, and it's expensive to get access to those. Virtual career centers, fantastic option for people who live in rural areas in particular or have difficulty with transportation. Mobile phone applications. People tell me those are a little bit harder sometimes to use. So, you know, just thinking about the ease of it for different people. But certainly if you have a client who has a phone and they don't have a computer, that's something to think about. Social networking or social media. I'm always saying, let's be a little bit careful about what we do on social media, particularly when it comes to later on maybe finding a job or finding work. We want to be cautious what we're posting and who can see what we're posting. And then distance counseling, but we don't just say distance counseling anymore, do we? We say telehealth. All right, so there are hundreds of single purpose websites. The ones that I'm really going to enforce in this class are the ones that are run by U.S. Department of Labor or Bureau of Labor. And those are going to be things like Career One Stop, Occupational Outlook Handbook, and ONET. All right. And then a list of different websites is maintained by the National Career Development Association. They have a ton of resources. So it's great to look up some of the stuff that they have. All right, integrated planning systems are developed to organize various content topics into one system. So you would have places where people could do assessments, where they can search for occupations, where they can find majors that align to the career interests that they have, where they can do their resume writing, all of that in one stop shop. And people can use parts of the integrated planning system independently or in sequence, depending on their specific needs. So you may have a client, therefore, who needs some assessments, but they don't really need a resume. Maybe they have a fantastic resume. Increased time on systems produces increased confidence and decision making. So there's something from the research you may want to know. Users compared to non-users have higher career decision making self-efficacy. That should make sense to you. And students who enter jobs and occupations suggested by the career planning system experience higher job satisfaction. Why is that? Well, because of course, if you're taking interest profilers and values inventories and things like this, and in some of these systems, they even look at your aptitudes. For example, the U Science actually gives an aptitude exam. They're going to suggest occupations that you are well suited for and have high interest in, and your values connect to. So, of course, job satisfaction is going to be higher. High school students who use integrated career planning systems are more likely to continue to post-secondary education, likely because they are able to find a pathway. But a second likely reason is because they may be in districts that can afford these types of tools, and not every district can. So the wealth of the district can make a big difference in college preparation. So just want to also put that out there as a way to think critically about that research. So it's probably not just the integrated career planning system, but it's probably a whole host of other things. If the K-12 system is willing to put a lot of investment into an integrated system, then they probably also are doing some other types of career and college planning with students. So I would want to know more correlates from that study. Taking an online interest inventory and then choosing a post-secondary major suggested by it predicts a higher college grade point average. Well, again, likely students are going to be interested. They're going to be in places where people have access to resources, or they wouldn't already have this integrated learning system. And so it's not as surprising that they may have also gotten some career and college advisement that has led them to a major that they like. And here's some of those integrated planning system: the ACT profile system, career information system, Focus 2, Hobson's Cooter, ZAP. Do not know that one, but I do know Zello, and that's familiar. And of course, I mentioned U Science and Naviance and Cooper. All right, virtual career centers. So these actually bring together a number of websites in an organized fashion. They're free or low cost, and they lack the capability to guide a user from one activity to the next. So there's your big disadvantage. There's no person there to guide people. So they kind of have to have a sense of what they need. And of course, our smartphones are now delivering career planning information. But of course, screen sizing can make a difference in what is provided. I do want to also just point out here that assessment results and other information related to use can be seen, it can be sent to users via text. It means it may also be seen by other people. So just want to make sure that we're letting clients know how things might affect their privacy or their confidentiality when using these applications. All right, newest phenomenon related to the use of technology in career guidance is social networking. Why they have MySpace listed, I do not know. I just, ah. So of course, TikTok, Instagram, you can find a bunch of people on TikTok doing videos on things like how to do a job interview, and what not to do. Sometimes that's even better information, right? So you just want to make sure that if you are recommending any of these kinds of sites, that you are explaining why and what you hope that the job seeker will see. You also want to talk to clients about the types of web-based social networking they do and how it might affect their opportunities in terms of career and college. I think about this a lot with students in counseling. Some of us, and I'm pointing at myself, have really strong political views, and we're in a very tense environment when it comes to being critical in any way about politics. So being careful, especially if it's going to affect you in getting work, maybe something you want to consider. But we can talk about that a little bit more in person. All right, strategies for using social media. You can actually search yourself on Google and see what comes up. What is your brand, or what would people see if they were to look you up? Would they see what you hope they would see? You can upload professional resumes or profiles. You can even do that in a video format. And think about having that on your, for example, LinkedIn page, a link to your resume. If you do that, I would remove any information that can identify where you live, or your personal phone number, um, or an email that is not maybe the main email that you use. Make sure postings are consistent in content, that you're giving the same message, and get as many connections and endorsements on LinkedIn as possible. Focus on specific employers and jobs. Do your research prior to interviewing. Yes, social media can definitely help you with that, because you can learn a lot about a particular company or the people who work there, or just all kinds of information. All right. You want to attempt to gain direct electronic contact with hiring managers. But I'm going to talk a bit about this in class and what people are looking for when they're hiring and some of the complications we're running into as a result of that. So we'll talk a bit more about that in class. And then consider creating blogs in which you can journal professional topics. We had a student who did that some years ago. In fact, she is very much into prenatal and postnatal care for mothers and traumatic birth experiences and some other things. And she had a blog. Even when she was a student, she was very interested in this topic for some personal reasons. I think some of you may have met her or know who this is, but she's very well known in the counseling community. And part of the way she got to be known was her professional blog before she ever entered the counseling profession. Distance counseling, I really hate this term. Telehealth, I'm going to say, is it's counseling to a client by a qualified professional via the internet. You have taught us in other classes, but we just have to be careful. People's information is important, and you need to have a reason you're doing this, and you need to have some telehealth training to do this. I have met with clients online. You might want to think about what kind of guidelines you want to set. For example, do you want your client to have their video on while you meet with them? And if so, what is the reason for that? Now, I do like to have their video on because I like to be able to see people's faces. But not every client is willing to do that. I had a client one time who, in every meeting, he refused to turn on his video camera, which was kind of interesting. All right. 4 professional organizations have developed ethical guidelines for any of this type of using social media, computer training, and computer planning for whether it's for mental health or school counseling or for career. So you want to just know that they all kind of have guidelines, right? And so does ASCA. So the American School Counselor Association, the American Counseling Association, the International Association for Educational and Vocational Guidance, the National Board for Certified Counselors, and of course, NCDA, the National Career Development Association. To select websites, you can go with the theoretical base of the system. In other words, are they working out of a career construction model, or are they working out of a social cognitive career theory model? Most are not going to be able to tell you what they're working out of from my experience. But hopefully, if that's important to you, you can find that out. And the presence of online inventories or capability to enter the results of an assessment taken in print form might be very helpful to you. So just thinking about which of those resources you need. Do I need only online inventories, or do I need to be able to put in the results that people give in a pencil and paper test? So you want to think about the number, quality, and comprehensiveness of databases and the ease of searching them. You want to select websites and integrated systems that are comprehensive, but comprehensive to the needs of your clients. So if you're only going to be seeing people who are in higher education, you might need a very different system than somebody who's looking at K-12 or somebody who's working. For example, I have a friend who does career counseling, and she does it with women in prison. So, that's her. That is the populations, I'm going to say that, populations that she chooses to work with. And so she needs systems that are very friendly for them, many of whom don't have a high level of literacy. Multimedia capabilities, quality and track record of the vendor. In other words, are they responsive to your needs as the career counselor? What kind of training do they offer, and how often do they update their site? All right, so adding high touch to high tech, what does that mean? Well, it means, how do we help clients to still feel that they're getting something from their career counselor, not just here's a planning system, good luck. Making sure that you're discussing the results of assessments, making sure that you're checking in with them on other issues. So remember, we've talked about being a holistic counselor. Career counselors are holistic. So trying to talk them through the whole process of choosing a career that fits with their lifestyle, with their projected lifestyle long term, their life roles. We've talked about that with Dawn Super. So you want to take that really broad view here. Some competencies you need: detailed knowledge of the system or site and the types of assessments that are used. Whether or not you're going to be able to motivate users to invest their time in that. So are your clients going to want to actually do this? A problem, for example, with youth sciences, just to take the one piece of it that gives you aptitude information is anywhere from 90 minutes to 2 hours. So you want to think about what kind of populations can tolerate that. Who wants to take another 2-hour assessment if they're in K-12 and they're already taking 1 million assessments every day, every time they turn around? So is this going to be something useful? Are your users going to find it user friendly? Do people want to take that much assessment? All right. And so is this something that you're going to be capable to move users beyond information to an action plan? It's your responsibility as the counselor to determine readiness of a client to use a computer system effectively. And that's beyond, like, do you have internet at home? Like, I think about people who are in their 60s or 70s. Some of them are not very comfortable using these sort of non-traditional methods without support. So you want to provide motivation and emotional support. You also want to make sure it's going to be a good fit for the person and identify values that guide decision making, and then suggest creative alternatives if this is not a good path for your client. So some different counselor computer models: one-to-one counseling plus computer-based system, group guidance plus computer-based system, group counseling plus computer-based systems, or cyber counseling plus use of assigned websites. So there's lots of different ways to think about this and how it can be done. Some other issues: environment, lack of face-to-face contact and warm counseling environment. That might be a real problem for some of your clients. They may want to speak with a real person. Presenting problems, need to discern which can be dealt with in this mode. In other words, if you have a whole list of issues that your client is dealing with, maybe they have some depression, maybe they're having difficulty getting to work, maybe at work they're having some conflict with other employees or colleagues because they've dropped the ball on some things. So maybe they also need to think about a disability disclosure. There's a whole host of problems there, right? So you may need to really think about, well, hey, the ICT system is not going to prioritize these presenting problems. That's my job as a counselor. So thinking about how that's going to get done if people are using these systems. And then you need to discern who can profit from service. Is it everyone? Just some people? Who really needs it? Who really needs to see the counselor instead? And how often and how are you going to adjunctively do these two things? Security, need to protect confidentiality. There's that encryption situation. Counselor training, you need to identify the competencies that you have for using some of these assessments. I know people who have tried to use things like Use Science or Naviance, or maybe they've tried to use the strong interest inventory, but they don't have a license to do it because they haven't been trained. They're not competent. And that's just not going to be helpful to the client. And then you need to know when to refer to someone else. They say here in future possibilities, gaming. We already have gaming, so I don't know. There's lots of games, career games, right? And so we'll actually do some in class. Sorry about that. Virtual reality, already doing it. I have told you all about grants that I am proposing with virtual reality for neurodivergent clients. Lifelong personal portfolios, artificial intelligence, already using it. A lot of people are already using that. And then counselor online support. So what they're calling future possibilities, a lot of it is already here and has been here and is going to continue to evolve. All right, that is the end, friends, of chapter 7. So now we'll keep moving on. Hope you all have a great